You want me to whistle?
Hey guys, I'm going to introduce our speaker. Here I have with me is a friend. Her name is Adrienne Ross. She's a former teacher, former basketball coach. She's an editor and athlete on the lowdown. And public speaker, and she's going to share with you guys today, so please give her a hand.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Mrs. Sanders, for your invitation to come. Thank you, Shay, for that wonderful introduction. We were talking over there a second ago, and Shay and I have known each other for, I guess, about a year now. I am originally from New York. I'll talk a little bit about that. I haven't lived in Missouri that long. But as she was introducing, and she was like, well, she's a former this and a former that and a former this, and we were talking, I said, hey, is there anything that I actually do? She's like, I'm a former everything. But we'll talk a little bit beyond what I used to do. But what I am doing right now, I'm very excited about, and that is to be here with you today. I walked in the door, and I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm at home. As she said, I'm a former teacher, and it's been a while since I've been in the classroom. And so I just felt like I was embraced, like I was at home, seeing the kids and all the buzz, the young people, I guess, not kids. But I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited about the opportunity to speak, in particular, to student athletes. So thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for taking the time to come. And I'm going to, for the sake of my ego, believe that you came to hear me speak, and not just because they were giving out free dessert. It makes me feel better to think that it wasn't just the dessert that got you here. But as Shay said, I am a former coach. I coached high school girls varsity basketball. I played I know I don't look like an athlete anymore, but I do. I play ball. I coached for 6 years. I taught for almost 18 years, 7th grade English language arts, but had a wonderful experience of 6 years of coaching. And so I say that to say that I understand that you're athletes, and so it's an honor as someone who loves sports and who loves what sports can teach us. I love the opportunity to come and talk to you because you as an athlete, you have certain understandings that maybe other people don't have. You understand what it is to put yourself forward, to try to reach a goal, to the discipline that it requires. It's Friday. There are people who are out, they're not in here, they're out of here. There are times, but you're here. There are people who are, who don't understand the discipline that it takes, and especially as young women, because I don't know, things have changed a little bit, but when I was in school, we didn't have the encouragement and the opportunities and some of the things that you now have as student athletes, as the respect, and we're still trying to get that respect. I mean, did anybody watch the March Madness? Is anybody into the March Madness back when I was like, I'm on Facebook, and I love men's basketball too. But I'm on Facebook, and I'm looking, and everybody's talking about Kentucky, and I'm rooting for Kentucky too, and all that, and then I'm thinking, where's the love for the sisters? And I'm thinking there are girls who are playing also, and it's like crickets. I'm talking about Kentucky, and I'm getting like, comment, and I'm like, what about my Tennessee Lady Balls? I'm a big Tennessee fan. Woo! And then it was like crickets, and I'm like, as far as we've come, we still have those obstacles to overcome in terms of respect and all that. And so we want to start today talking about even respecting ourselves, and I want to talk about some really, really important things. And so I'm going to hit it, and I know I don't have a lot of time. I did tell Mr. Sanders, I said, my goodness, he said about 15 minutes. I said, I've never talked for only 15 minutes in my life, but I'll do my best to give you a lot in a little bit of time about some really important things. And one thing that I really want to focus on today is this one word that really has grabbed me for years. I think it's so important. And if I could leave one thing with you, it would be wrapped around this one thing. And that word is purpose. Purpose. And if we understand our purpose in life, it has captured me. And I taught, like I said, 7th grade. And so at the beginning of the school year, in September, in New York, I guess you guys come in August, but in New York we start school in September, and so they're about 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, depending on whether They were in 7th grade the year before, which sometimes is the case. But I remember when, in the beginning of the year, we would start this unit called Identity. And I would say to students, one question I would ask is, have you ever wondered what your purpose is in life? And I'm amazed that even at 12 years old, how many hands go up of people who have thought about that already. And I think now with some of the challenges that are going on in the world, we tend to think about that even more. Why am I here? What is my purpose? Or am I just kind of just chilling till it's all over? So I'm going to ask you, how many of you have ever wondered what your purpose is? What am I supposed to do? What is it I want to do? What is my passion? Okay, lots of you have. And so we expect that at your age. But I'm amazed that the young ones are even beginning to wonder. And that's a good thing, because we need to know. So here's another question. Do you believe, and I want you to raise your hand if you do, that there is a specific purpose for your life? Raise your hand if you believe that there is a specific purpose for your life. Okay. Some people, most of you do. Now, I'm not going to ask you what that is, but I'm going to ask you another question. Do you know what that specific purpose is? Raise your hand if you feel that you know your purpose. And that was bold. Look at the look on her face, too. She knows. It's like, I know. I don't care if anybody else raises their hand. I know. You don't have to share it, but if you want to, you can.
I've always had a big passion for human trafficking and women and human trafficking. So I am going to go to college and study psychology. And so then there's like a state council from St. Louis that I kind of want to go and protect.
Well, good for you. That's an important issue. What grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior. Well, good for you. Is there anybody else? I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't have to tell us what it is, but is there anyone else who knows, I know what my purpose is? You do. Do you want to share?
Well, I know my sister has special needs, and so I just know that my career will be something with helping kids with special needs. That's just what I like.
Good for you. Anybody else? Yes.
I've known my entire life that I love animals. And, I'm really passionate about like poaching and that kind of stuff, and so I've always known since I was a little kid that I want to be a vet and do something to help with that.
For you. Now, let me ask this question. How many of you will say, I have no idea what my purpose is? How many of you feel that way? Like, you just don't know, okay? Only one person doesn't know? Okay. You know, when I was born, my Aunt Mary said to me, well, she didn't say to me, I mean, she could, but I don't remember. But I was told that when I was born, my Aunt Mary said to my mom, name her Adrienne. I know this is going to make no sense, but this is what she said. Name her Adrienne, because she's going to be a school teacher. What does Adrienne have to do with being a school teacher? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. And you know, my Aunt Mary passed away a couple years ago, and I never asked her why. I just knew the story. Name her Adrienne. She's going to be a school teacher. And so I ran from that all my life, because when I was young, and my Aunt Alma was going to school to get her bachelor's and get her master's as an adult. And I, at a young age, I was reading her papers, editing her papers, and so it was always, you know, you're going to be a teacher. I'm like, I'm going to be an actress. I want to be an actress. In fact, I was told, you won't be an actress. You can't be an actress. And I remember crying. I was about to start 10th grade, and I was going to start a new school. And my aunt said to me, well, when you go in and meet the guidance counselor, and she says, what do you want to do when you grow up? What are you going to say? And I'm like, I want to be an actress. I told you that all my life. You can't say that. You're not going to be. And I cried. I'm talking 10th grade. I wanted to be. I mean, I used to get in front of the mirror, and I was acting out soap operas, and I had to cry, and the whole thing going. Be an actress. For whatever reason, you know, the first time I stood in front of a classroom, and I guess embraced my destiny, I knew that was what I was called to do. God bless you. And even though I no longer teach, and I'll talk a little about that, no longer teach every day in a classroom English language arts, I still know that's who I am. It's a part of my purpose, a part of my destiny. Mark Twain said, The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. And I'll repeat that because that is powerful. The two most important days in your life, and I say that to you, are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. But here's the deal. Even if you don't know what your specific purpose is, it's essential that you know that you have one. Now, many of you can't say emphatically, I want to deal with human trafficking. I want to deal with special needs. I don't like how people treat animals. You might not be able to pinpoint what you were called to do or destined to do, but you've got to know that there is a purpose. It will change everything. You know the people who have no clue that they're here for a purpose. That God has created them with purpose. Because they live like it. Some of you know some people like that. Some of you live with some people like that. And they live as if they have nothing more than today. That's why it's important that you understand that you have a purpose and that you're not here by accident. And as a Christian, how many of you are part of FCA? I know not everyone is, but how many? Okay. And the rest of you, what you waiting for? Here, listen. As a Christian, for those of you who are Christians, who committed your life to Christ, you have a plus that others don't have. Because you understand that there's more than right now. There's more than just day to day. There's more than just going through the motions. If you recognize who you are, you have a plus. And that's why identity is linked to purpose. You have to know who you are. And you have to know whose you are. That you belong to a Creator who has destined you for a purpose. And therefore, everything, even the stuff that just stinks, you know that on the other side, no matter what you're going through, that there's hope, that there's purpose. And you can live with that confidence. You can't live with that confidence when you don't know who you are. You think about children of royalty, princesses, even children of dignitaries, famous people. They walk differently. They walk into a place, they walk with a certain swagger. They walk with a certain, as a teacher, I would be in the hallway with the kids. I would say, great relationship with kids and stuff. God really blessed me with, He drove me nuts as you drive your teachers nuts, I'm sure, at times. But I always, I was the cool teacher who could beat them in basketball, and, that kind of helps. Ride a Harley, that helps. All those things that help. But, I would see kids walking down the hall, and sometimes they're walking and their head down like this, and I would say, hold your head up. People who know who they are, they tend to come into a place a certain way because of who they are. And I'm not talking about being arrogant. I'm talking about a confidence that comes from knowing that there's a God who loves you and that there's a purpose in your life, even when life sucks sometimes. How many of you have ever gone through sucky situations? Yeah. And sometimes we don't know. We can't tell because we wear the mask. And nobody knows what we're feeling on the inside. And we get out on the basketball court, or we get out on the track field, or we get out there and kick the soccer ball, and we let our, and that's why it's a beautiful thing to have athletics. That's why we should be cutting athletics, because it is such an important part, not only for our physical health, but for our emotional health. And it enables us, it gives us an outlet, and it gives us bonds, it gives us relationships, it gives us people who, I coach, like I said, who dedicate so much time and effort into you to help you walk out that purpose and that destiny. It's so much more than kicking the ball in the goal. It's so much more than running the mile. There's so much life lessons that are in everything that you have committed yourself to do. And that's why I say, as an athlete, you have a positive. You have something that some people don't. You'll have to understand things in a way that some people don't. You are a child of the King. Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah 29:11, one of my favorite scriptures. God says, I know the plans that I have for you. God said His plans were to do good, to give you a hope in the future. We tend to think about God and like, oh my goodness, He's going to crush me. You ever hear somebody say, if I go in that church, the whole thing going to collapse on me? If you invite me to church, are to prosper you, to give you a hope and a future. He said, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I already knew you. I already had a plan for you. He's just waiting for us to catch up. You hear people say sometimes, I'm just waiting on God. God's waiting on you to realize who you are. To realize who you are. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have obstacles. Listen, you're going to have obstacles. Anybody ever face an obstacle? Anybody going through an obstacle? Yeah, I don't care what it is. At this stage, you realize, I don't care if it's, I wanted to make the team, couldn't make the team. I wanted to pass the test, didn't pass the test. I wanted to go to this college, we don't have the money. My mom and my dad are separated, divorced, whatever. And I'm trying to go here on this weekend and here on that weekend and all that stuff. And I've got all this stuff going on. This boy, I really like him. He doesn't like me. Or he broke up with me. And all this stuff that we deal with. We all have obstacles. And it doesn't end. I wish it did at 44, I'm telling you. You still have obstacles as long as you're living. And it builds your character, it helps you. It helps you. I don't know, sucks a bad word right now? Sorry. It's really bad. It's really bad. You know, but for me, I had obstacles too. Listen, I was raised my mom until I was 8 years old, only with my mom. In the projects, do you know what projects are? You know, okay, I'm sorry. I'm still learning, but in the projects until I was 8 years old with my mom. And, you know, my sister who was 22 months older than I am. So I'm about, I don't know, probably when I remember 5 years old, something like that. I only lived with my mom until I was 8, so I was very, very young. And my mom, she was young and, you know, doing her thing. And we lived on the 9th floor in the projects of the Bronx. And she would just leave, disappear, not come home after work, whatever. And I remember, I would just, even at a young age, I can still remember looking at my sister, who's not, if I'm 4, she's 6, or almost 6. So we're young. And she's trying to look out for me. And there's no food in the house, because mom's not making great decisions. And there's no food, and my sister and I going out, knocking on the door. You got a piece of bread, you got a peanut butter, you got whatever. And I remember taking bread and having ketchup sandwiches. No wonder I don't take to ketchup very well anymore. You know? Making ketchup and eating peanut butter out of a jar. And looking out the window, I remember we could see down the hill, we could see where buses would come, way down the hill. And if my mom was coming, that bus would pull up, and the next thing you know, she'd be walking up that hill. And so I would be looking out that window. Every time we see a bus, we'd be like, maybe mom is on the bus. Say to my sister, Mona, maybe mom is on the bus. So many times mom was not on the bus. And here I am, what, 5, 6? I don't know. In the projects. Folks, killing folks out there. You know? And I remember I would say to my sister, I would say, no, mom knows. Even then I can remember, she knows that we're here. I couldn't fathom how she could not, how you could do that. You know, and thank God, as I got older, you know, I ended up living with, I had an aunt and uncle, and then another aunt who ended up raising me, took us out of that situation. We ended up living in Long Island, had the, you know, the beautiful house with the picket fence and the dogs, you know, and all that. And then there were still challenges in that situation as well. But I ended up fine. But at some point I had to make a decision. I could make an excuse for everything and say, well, that's because this is what I went through, or my mom is not raising me, or whatever. But ultimately, I had to determine that I wasn't going to let my past dictate my future, because there was a purpose. And from a very young age, I knew. Someone said from a young age, I knew this. From a young age, I knew that there was something that God had called me to do. And I still haven't fully stepped into it. There's still more, but I just knew. But how are we going through this? How can, you know... So you're going to have obstacles, but it doesn't have to determine your future. In 2013, I left teaching. I taught for almost 18 years. I was making good money, had insurance, all that. But I knew, too, when I stepped into teaching, as much as I knew God called me to teach, I also knew that there was going to come a day when He was going to call me away from the classroom. I just didn't know when. And I began to pray about it, I knew it was getting closer. I didn't know where it was going. I had my own idea of what it was going to be, and it didn't turn out that way. But at one point, God called me to take a step of faith. And I turned in my resignation. I started the school year in September. I was out in October. I turned in my resignation. I didn't even have a job, y'all. I knew I was moving here because I started visiting. It became like a second home. I felt called to the area. The job that I do now full-time is online. I can be anywhere. I don't have to do it here, but I know that this is a part of the plan. People ask me all the time, how did you come to Missouri? I'm like, you know, I don't even have all the answers. I didn't have a job, and I never recommend quitting a job before you get another one. Unless you're called to do it. I knew it was time. And God was faithful and opened the door. I'm talking thousands of dollars less. No insurance and all that. That fear could have held me back. But fear often holds us back. But I knew there was a purpose. And I knew the one that had said step out wasn't going to leave me on my own. So I took that step of faith, and he met me right there. And now I'm editing for Breitbart News, freelance, God bless you, freelance writing, doing an online radio show, started a small business where I panhandle my aunt's coats. It's a whole different story. And more opportunities and more doors are opening. So you're gonna have obstacles. So as athletes, you understand about that. You understand the discipline that it takes to succeed, the stamina, the perseverance. You understand what it is to have a goal and to do everything to reach that goal. You understand what it is to win. You understand what it is to lose. And to have character. To be like Christ, particularly those of you who are professing Christ. Please don't go on the court and then act a fool. I let it, Lord. Cursing folks out. I never forget one time, I'll tell you. I'll never forget one time I was went to the mall and somebody must have taken my parking space. This was years ago. And the lady said something, and I was like, who do you think you're talking to? And I tell you what, every time I lose my cool like that, I go, you know what, she's going to show up at church on Sunday. And I'm going to be worshiping the Lord. And that's that lady that told me off in the parking lot. You want to live with character. We were joking earlier in her office. We were like, you can't imagine, Jesus did what his Father told him to do. He exemplified his Father's character. You can't imagine Jesus saying, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care what the Father said. You can't even picture that. It just doesn't even make sense, right? So, anyway, I don't even know how I got into that. But your participation in sports gives you an edge. Do it with character. When I coached, I told my players, I said, we win with character, and we win with character. I never would say lose, because we didn't understand the option, but they knew what I meant. We win with character. We do everything with character. None of this, I'm not going to shake your hand. We don't do that. I'm not going to pick you up if you fall when there's a play going on, but I'm not going to trip you on purpose. I had a few of those players that you had to rein in because if you're losing, they're going to hurt you. That's your character. So, if you have a relationship with God in particular, that's your greatest asset to overcome obstacles. And it's also the best thing that you have to offer. Don't keep it to yourself. There are people around you who need Christ. They need what you have. And you've got more than you realize you have. On one hand. On the other hand, you only have as much as you know you have. It's sort of like having $1 million in the bank. You don't know it's there. You can't access it. So it just sits. You've got in you, your purpose is worth more than $1 million. But if you don't realize who you are and what you have, it just wastes away. So I came to encourage you to embrace all that's within you. And it doesn't matter your background. You know, as a teacher, I used to say, I call them the feel-good, smell good crowd. The people you look at and it looks like everything is perfect. They live in the best part of town, families, this, that. It just looks wonderful. And then you find out they're hurting on the inside. You wonder why some of them that seem to have the best life are acting a fool. Because you don't know what's going on inside. Because it looks so pretty, it smells so good. I had a student he was just a mess. I had him twice. The next student, I had him twice too. They liked me. They just wanted to keep coming back. I told them they could visit and go on to 8th grade. But his mom she trained horses and stuff, so she would travel and she would train horses. He had money, he had a beautiful home. He was a piece of work. He liked me, so we had a good relationship. But on a given day, he'd just walk out of the class if he felt like it. And I said to him, I was like, look what you have going for you. I was like, your mom, you got great opportunities. Your mom loves you. And he's like, and then he just said, you know what? But she's never there. She's always traveling. And so that thing that looked like it was so wonderful was an obstacle for him because what he wanted was not necessarily the money or the best clothes and all the things that he had. He wanted his mother. Just like I wanted mine. And my mom wasn't there. And now we have a good relationship. But at that time, I just want my mom because Mom, you're mean. Loved her, she loved me, but she was mean. But yeah, he was smell good, crowd, he looked good and all that, but he had stuff going on inside. And I had another student who was a mess. I had him twice too. And he was, he loved me, but he could curse me out one day and love me the next. And we would just pick up and go on. And one day I pulled him out in the hall because he was acting especially crazy lately. And I said, what is going on with you? Obstacles, right? Obstacles, obstacles. He has a purpose. I want to have a conversation with him. I want him to understand you've got a purpose. What are you doing? And I said to him those words. I said, you're my... And his mom, she really was trying to be involved and trying to keep on the right track. Like, dude, I was like, you got a mom. She cares about you, loves you. And then he just started crying. Big dude. Big, burly, cool guy. He just began to cry when I went to his mom. And I'm like, what happened? We're in the hallway? What did I do? Because they buy you for anything around here. I didn't do anything. But he broke. And I said, what's up? And he said, my mom's sick. She may die. I didn't know that his mom was sick. Didn't know what was going on. And we look at things from the outside sometimes and we go, oh, wow, that person has it all together. Oh, yeah, they don't need me or they don't need Christ or whatever. And this person's all jacked up and I'm going to stay away from them because they might just smack me. I mean, we have all and ultimately, we're all in the same boat. We all need to understand our identity. We all need to understand that we're here for a purpose. We all need to understand that where we are right now is not where we have to stay. And we all need to understand there's a God who loves us. Can I get an amen? Amen. I'm going to pick this up. I told you I never talked for 15 minutes. I have no idea how long I've been going. Let me wrap this up real quick. Well, sort of. School starts in New York in September. I'm here. A student I had 2 years ago. I got a message from this young girl committing suicide. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I remember her. She had the thickest attitude ever. She did. But I connected with her when she was in my class. I could make her smile. And you remember this, Christine, when it happened. It's my good friend, Christine. She's videographer / camera person / trend. But in any case, I got that message and I was blown away. I'm like, she hung herself. And I'm like, I couldn't wrap my brain around it, and I said, because, like I said, she did have an attitude, but we had this connection. I could make her smile. She would be trying not to, whatever, but she had a friend. She was, she hung herself. And it broke my heart, because you know what my thought was? Because I had that connection with her, if I hadn't left New York, if I had been there, this wouldn't have happened. I had been there to reach out. I had been there. I can't, and that's, you got to deal with those things and whatever, but my point was, how do you not find any hope at all? How do you get to the point? I'm in a room this size, I may be dealing with people who have felt that way before. The last time I was in New York in December speaking to a group of students, I had students come up to me afterwards and say, I'm so glad you spoke what you did, because such and such has been talking about suicide. Such and such has been slicing. So you never know. But my thought was, how do you not know that this is the difference between knowing that you have a purpose and not knowing that you have a purpose. Because life, if you haven't had struggles or obstacles yet, they're coming. And you know from sports, there's nothing that's just easy. Even the scrubby team sometimes manage to hurt you. But they're going to come. What are you going to do with it? You got to think about it now. Now. Failure is not an option. Ending it is not an option. There's hope. How do you get to the point where you don't understand that there's a purpose beyond today? That the things, you see that in games. You're up, you're down. You're up, you're down. You win a race. You lose a race. You kick a goal. Sometimes it doesn't work. You've got to understand that there is a purpose that will push you and propel you when you can't see your way out. You've got to believe that there is a purpose and it will work together. And I think that as women, young women, not so young women, and young women, we tend to sometimes, we're more susceptible to those weights and those struggles, because we're trained and socialized to be nurturers and to, we're supposed to nurture you, we take care of you, we're supposed to have it together. And society places so much pressure on girls. I'm too thin. I'm not thin enough. He doesn't like. I want a boyfriend. I've never had a boyfriend. And we go through those things. I think we do, and we are emotional. I know people want to tell us that there's no difference between boys and girls in our makeup, but God made us different, and we are emotional sometimes, and we hurt sometimes, and so we allow those weights to. And if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves under a cloud of depression because we're trying to please everybody. And everybody's got their expectation, and I'm insecure, and I'm dealing with this or that. And if we're all honest, we all have been there. And it doesn't stop. Unfortunately, that's why you've got to know who you are, because it doesn't stop. And I say all the time, bullying. Do you guys have like an anti-bullying thing here? And that's so important, but I tell you this. I've said this before. I'll say it again and again and again. As much time as we spend on telling people not to bully, we need to start telling people what to do when they are bullied. Nobody needs to be bullied, and when people are bullying people, they need to be dealt with swiftly and sternly. Yes. However, kids are cruel. So when somebody is telling you something negative about yourself, or somebody doesn't like you, whatever, we can't be having people jumping off bridges and stuff, hanging themselves. That young lady, it had something to do with some boyfriend or something. I mean, you're in 9th grade. I need him that bad? That's when I know who I am. And that's why a lot of times when it comes to young ladies, we end up in these relationships that are abusive. And we stay with them because, I just want to be with somebody. I just want somebody to love me. I just want somebody to hold me. I just want somebody to tell me and so we succumb and give ourselves to people we know aren't worth us. Because you don't know that you're a princess. And you belong to the king. And you deserve better. Some of you may know. And then you need to start telling other people. Right? So, I think maybe that, as women too, we're made to persevere. We're strong. I think that's why God made it so we have babies, because we can. God would be like, it would have been done a long time ago. We have a strength that's within us. And we tear each other down so much, though, instead of building. Something about, I think it's that insecurity thing. Women are, some of the best friends are guys. Have you experienced that? Some of the best, you're like, I can't be dealing with all this drama with her, it's all hormonal and stuff. But guy, it's a little different. So we need to build each other up, not tear each other down. I'm going to leave you with some tools. I brought a little tool bag, and when you're cheap and you don't want to buy a whole box, you can't fit everything in, so it kind of hangs out. But it seems to match everything in this building, so we're good. But I'm going to leave you. Yeah, I did that on purpose because I wanted it to run it. But I want to talk about some obstacles. I want to talk about overcoming obstacles and a little toolkit. I'm going to give you about 4 things. When I was coaching, I would call a timeout. Coach, the play's not working, coach. They figured it out. It's not working. I look at them and say, it'll work if you work it. That was just my way because I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, I don't got no play to draw up. And what we did in practice don't work. Go out and have fun. Actually, we were very competitive. We won two conference championships, 2 in a row. It was the first time it ever been done in the history of the school. The banners still hang. And when I left coaching, it was at the top of it was after 2 championships. But it wasn't so much because I was a great X's and O's kind of person. It was because I was able to encourage them to work hard. And I would say to them, you will be the most conditioned team on that floor. You will be. We are not going to lose because you got tired. Okay? You will be the most conditioned. So you have to overcome the obstacles. What happens is that you take the whole thing. You remember. That's why you need the up and the down, because the up propels you, the down inspires you. Coach Pat Summitt from Tennessee Lady Vols, who's no longer on the sidelines anymore, unfortunately, but when they would lose, they would go to the Final Four and they would lose, she would wear, in her practice and her own workout, she would wear a T-shirt from that opposing team that beat them throughout that whole till they get to the next, season, because it was a reminder of what it felt like to lose. She used that to inspire her. Just like the good. The good inspires you. The bad inspires you also. And so you need some tools. And the first one I'm going to give you is there's a magnifying glass. And I just want you to let this represent. Because when you go to your sports things, there's a med kit, right? And then there's a bag with balls in it. And you got all this stuff that you bring because you need to be prepared. Well, shame on us if we are more prepared for the game or the, whatever than we are for the game of life. So your first tool is, this is the magnifying glass, but it represents your focus, your vision. And what I mean by that is I want you to be able to see where you are. Be honest with yourself. Where am I? Where am I in my life? Where am I in reaching my destiny? Where am I? And see it for what it is and call it for what it is. And if you're brave, ask somebody that you can trust. What do you see in me? What are my strengths? Don't ask that question if you don't want to answer it. Don't ask. But if there's someone you can trust and say, what do you see? Where am I? Because you don't have to stay where you are, but you have to know where you are to go to the next place. So be honest, okay? That's important. Be brutally honest with where you are. The next thing is, I got some seeds here. Not that I ever planted a garden in my life, but some seeds. This represents faith. The farmer who plants the seed, he doesn't. We look at this, a lot of people look at you and they just see you. But I'm looking at you, and I don't even know some of you, but I see potential. I see it in your eyes. I see purpose. That farmer, this Mexican sunflower, ain't no sunflower can fit in his bag. But he sees the sunflowers, the tomato. He sees he doesn't just see what, if we just looked at what we saw, we would be cutting ourselves. We would be doing the suicide thing. We would never move. We wouldn't study. But I've got to see beyond where I am now. I've got to have faith. When I left teaching, I had to have faith. I wasn't going to starve. Somebody said to me, oh, it's easier for you. You don't have any kids. I said, I like to eat too. It's almost like you only need a job if you got a kid. Well, listen, I kind of grown accustomed to eating. It's a habit. But you've got to have faith. Same thing. How many of us have never, anybody here play basketball? I mean, that's my thing. I played basketball, I played softball, I played volleyball, and I did 1 year of soccer in 7th grade. It takes a lot of stamina for soccer, oh my goodness. But who has not done this, especially in basketball? You're out there by yourself, nobody's there but you, you're just throwing like this, and yes, I do play like that behind the back the whole day. And then you go, 10, 9 in your brain. How many of you, you've done that? You see people do that, 10, now you go through that whole scenario, and you see yourself making that game-winning shot. That's faith. Or you see yourself kicking that goal, that's faith. And in your own life, see yourself beyond where you are now. Because this is just the beginning, the best is yet to come. If you believe that. So have that faith. You have to believe you will win. You have to believe you will win. I used to tell my teams, you must step on the court and believe that you will win. And the only way you can do that is if you know that you have put in the work to win. You know that you've embraced the principles necessary. And you know that the people alongside you have done the same. So pick who is alongside you very carefully. Because I can work really hard in the off season. But if the girl over there can't catch the ball, I'm in trouble. So we need everybody. That's why I said lift each other up. And your faith will defeat your fear. Don't let fear stop you. Why didn't you go out for the team? I was afraid I wasn't going to make it. That doesn't make sense because you didn't go out for the team, which means you didn't make it. So you really weren't afraid not to be on the team because you're not on the team. Do you hear what I'm saying? You're just afraid to try. You're afraid what people are going to think of you. Some people are afraid of success. Because then we might expect something more of you. You'd rather be mediocre. Moving on. Here's a shovel, or a trowel, whatever you call the stuff. This represents forgiveness. Some of us are not going to be healed internally until we bury some things. There are people who hurt us. There are people we've hurt. And we've got to forgive ourselves, and we've got to forgive other people. Bury some things. But some folks you just have to cut off because they're not good for you. And that takes courage. I have a bracelet that has the word courage hanging from it. A friend of mine gave that to me when I moved because she was saying you had courage to leave. But there are folks that you just need to let go. Let them go. So these are just tools that I want to leave with you to help you on your journey as you go forward. Are you hearing me? Say yes, nod. Hallelujah. But God does have a purpose and a plan for your life. Embrace that and understand that all things work together. How could it be that my mom not being there, how could that be good? How could it be that, when we were hungry now, how could that be good? How could it, the boy that broke up, how could that be good? How could the fact that I hurt my ankle, how could that be good? But the Bible says that God will cause all things to work together. Not every individual thing is good. But working together, I had a pastor used to say this. He said, you know what, you take some flour, throw it in your mouth and chew it up, nasty. Take just some raw dark chocolate, throw it in your mouth, nasty. Take an egg, crack it, put it in your mouth, nasty. But you take those ingredients and some others, mix them together, turn the heat of the oven up, put it in the oven, and you get chocolate cake. All things will work together for your good if you stay in the fight. So I haven't even met any of you before today, but I see purpose in you, and it's tied to your identity and knowing who you are in Christ and not bailing out when the obstacles come, because surely they will. And if you do that, you will find your place, whether on the court, on the field, in life, in relationships, for the rest of your life. That's something that no one can take away from you, who you are. Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen. So I just want to thank you. I know I took much longer. I took but thank you so much.
I actually have a comment.
Yeah.
I can relate to the obstacle thing because obviously we have a bad thing happen in my family. My grandfather was sick. We had to get his surgery. Me and my mom were devastated after we heard that he fell in the hospital. And every night I would pray and hope that he would get better, and he is getting better now. So I was really happy.
Good for you. And those are those unexpected things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That same thing happened to my aunt. I'm like, what? They're unexpected. It's sort of like you can't. There's some things you just can't prepare for. But her response was to pray. And that's important. How many of you? Can I ask that? How many of you are praying people? Wow. Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Anybody else? Yes.
What age did you feel that you had known your calling, your purpose, so to speak?
Well, the teaching aspect of that teaching part, I was done. I was in my last semester of college, actually. My major was English, but I didn't know what I was going to do that. Like I said, I wanted to be an actress. I always wanted to I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be all kinds of things. But as far as teaching goes, it was told me all my life, and I rejected that. But I remember doing a presentation as my last year of college, and the teacher said, she said, you need to be a teacher. And it was, and I just embraced it. But when I know for certain, when I stood in front of the classroom for the first time, I knew that was what I was called to do. But going further than that, I always knew something. I always knew that God had called me to do something. I hate to say great, but that's just how I feel. And I heard Oprah Winfrey. I heard Oprah Winfrey one time. I was listening to her. Well, it wasn't a CD, it was a tape. Back then, I heard her talk, and she said, I always knew that I was called to do something great. She said something like that. And when she said it, I said, that's what I feel. I didn't know how to put it in the words, but I was like, that's it. And so it was something that I always felt, like there was just something. And I still know that I'm not there yet, but I know there's something, But the teaching, that came later, even though I guess in some form or fashion I was doing it from a young age because they were making me and stuff, Yeah. Some people sort of stumble. You know what? What are some clues to knowing your destiny? A lot of it has to do with what is it that's passionate? What are you passionate about? For those of you who say, I have no clue, what makes you excited? That's a clue. Another clue that a lot of people don't think about is what makes you angry. Right? What makes you angry? And we're like, how could that be your destiny? I remember getting so angry about something, and a friend of mine said, do you ever think that maybe you're feeling that way because you're the one who's been called to change it? Instead of just getting mad at the people who do it. Maybe you've been called. Maybe that's why other people are like, oh, whatever. And meanwhile, you're just like, oh, it makes you so angry. Well, maybe you're the one that's supposed to change it. Anybody else? Yes.
When I was 10, my father died, and people was like, oh, you'll be okay, and all this stuff. But sometimes you oh, I can't get through this. You can't let other people determine who you are. You have to stand up and rise above what other people say about you. It doesn't matter if you're not good enough for this, if you don't make the team or anything. You have to rise up and make a stand and prove to them that you are worthy to be praised by the Most High King. And you can't let them tear you down like the God is trying to tear you down. Because in John 10:10, the Bible says, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come to have life and have it more abundantly. God wants us to have a life and let us do what He wants us. He called us to a destiny. He put us on this world for a reason, not for us to make sure we have a boyfriend, make sure we look this good. We don't have to look like the people in front of magazines. Right? We are ourselves. We need to show off who we are, our identity, and not nobody else's.
Okay. All right. I got it.
Amen.
What's your name?
Cherish.
Cherish? Perfect name. You know, I don't know why I'm here, because you just summed it up. And she did it much faster than I did. You know, and that was so beautifully said. I don't need to add to it, but if anybody wants to piggyback on what she said, please do. Please do. That's the truth. That's the truth. And yet we spend so much of our time trying to fit in or, you know. No. Anybody else? How many of you, and I'm not going to ask you what, but how many of you would say that you're dealing with something right now that might be on your mind or weighing you down or whatever? Yeah. Yeah, we do. We all do. And if you're not, and if you haven't, you just keep living this, you know. But you take the good, you take the bad, you mix it all together, right? And you surround yourself with people who are going to speak life. I don't allow anybody to just speak into my life. There are some people that have, because of their character, because we've built a relationship, because I know their heart, they can speak into my life and say, you know what, you're just wrong. Because a lot of times we like to keep those people in our lives that tell us how wonderful we are all the time. And sometimes we just not. Christy's pastor at her church, he says that you need somebody who has holds the shut up card in your life. Because a lot of times we're going through something like some of you said you are, and we get on this rant, and we need people to talk to. We need to vent. But sometimes we're just wrong, and we get bitter, and we're just like, I can't believe it. I'm gonna blah blah. And they did, you know. And you need somebody. And then you get those. We like to hang out with the people that go, yeah, girl, I don't believe it. I wouldn't talk to her either. You know. We like that because it feeds that. You're like, oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't talk to her. Roll your eyes next time you see her, and then they're just watching. We feeds that. But you need somebody who's going to look at you at times and say, you know what? Stop. You're wrong. Your attitude is wrong, and you need to grow up. You need both. You do. Helps you grow. Anybody else? Yes.
Did you ever say that there was a time in your life when you hit rock bottom and had to figure out how to get back up from that? And if so, how did you do it?
Good question.
You know what? I thank God for a relationship with God. because, there were times with family, there were times like when I was younger and I lived with my aunt, and like I said, we had a wonderful home and stuff, but I wanted my mom there, and that hurt. There were times when there was a time when that didn't work out, and so we had to go live with my other aunt, and I felt rejected there. There were times recently where Mom, who did raise me, I had to go, I was traveling every weekend, 3 hours one way, and I'm teaching, and yet I get in my car and I drive all the way to Long Island from upstate New York, because she ended up going into cardiac arrest, and she couldn't move, she couldn't talk, she had they put the hole in here, she had the trach, she couldn't feed herself, she couldn't turn, she couldn't do anything. That was my aunt who raised me, and there she was, just like that, in that situation. And I'd go to give my other aunt a break, and go every Saturday, come back on Sunday, and drive home and go to work. And I did that for a year. And the only thing that got me through that, because you can't count on some people sometimes to help, or you feel like, you can't, or whatever, but it was just trusting God. It was just having a relationship with Him, talking to Him, believing that He was in control. And I don't know how people function without God, without a relationship with God. I don't know how they do it. I don't want to find out. He is my everything. Apart from that, you can just forget. You don't even want to know me apart from God. You don't want to know me now, but you don't want to know me. So that's the only answer that I could give. And then surrounding yourself with others who are going to speak and stand with you, and believing, having those seeds of faith that where you are now is not where it has to remain. And you know what? Also, not being afraid to ask for help. We bottle so much inside. Cry out for help. People you trust. I don't know if I'm helping you at all, but I'm just, but talking to people that you can trust. And giving your life to God. And walking it out through the hard times, and having the faith, that vision, where it is now is not where it's going to stay. And that's really hard when your issue is in your home. A lot of times we got these outside things, but sometimes we deal with things within our home, and you can't cut the scissors, you can't cut those people off. And so you just have to say, my identity will be in Christ alone. My sister used to beat me up all the time. Nobody else could mess with me. That was for her to beat me up. Nobody else could beat me up. And I remember being young, I was like, I can't live for God in this house. I can't. I want you, Lord. I can't wait to get away from God. So, if anybody else has any advice, feel free for her. Anybody else? I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm not using the expression blowing smoke up your butt. I never heard it until I moved here, so I'm assuming you've heard that before. Someone said yes, someone said no. Have you heard that? Did you get what I'm saying? I'm not just telling you something that they're like, she can't come back. She went to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, talking about blowing smoke up her butt. But no, honestly, I'm not just telling you what you want to hear. I'm telling you because I believe it's important. I believe it's important. And so, God bless you guys, gals, I guess I should say. Give yourself